meeting. To ensure sound quality, the default rule for this meeting is that everyone will remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting. This meeting is open to the public but is not a public hearing. Therefore, no members of the public may speak unless specifically invited to do so. If a member of the public creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected from the meeting upon recommendation of staff or the chair. We appreciate your attendance at this meeting. Should you have any questions about the process, you may call our staff at 860-444-5813 after the meeting has ended. With that, I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For alternates tonight, we'll seat Julie for Gina. Okay. Item number 2, approval of the August 19th meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second?
Lurch seconds.
All those, any discussion?
Yes, Julie Wainscott here. With one modification at the bottom of page 2 of 3, at least in the version that's online on the town website. That sentence probably ends at as need, water trucks will be used as needed, or there's something else to add. It kind of hangs on there. Ooh, minor.
It says water trucks will be used. It says, Julie, it says water trucks will be used as needed to mitigate dust.
Okay, so what, I guess what's on, oh, there, okay.
It's on page 3.
I see that, okay. No comments then, looks
Okay.
perfect.
Any other comments, corrections, or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Item number 3. Application review C20-14, 14B Shore Road driveway construction. David C. Mortimer, owner and applicant. Billingsley Engineering Associates, agent. And we have a draft permit to review. Comments, questions on the draft?
I think the draft looks suitable to me, and I would move to send the draft for permit C2014 to final.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Wade, any comments or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C20-15.
Mr. Chair, who seconded that motion?
I think Wade Thomas.
Thank you.
Item C, I'm sorry, permit C2015, 140 Parkway South, concrete products manufacturing and outdoor storage. Fabcon Precast applicant, Mathen Fund 1 LLC owner, Lorero agent. Questions, comments?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Dolly?
For the record, I'd like to know what items does the proposed building have to prevent residual air pollutants from exiting the building?
We're having a little difficulty with your audio, Tally.
Okay. What items does the proposed building have installed to prevent residual air pollutants from exiting the building?
Mr. Moran, can you answer that?
So I will defer to Jeff Prince if he is on the line. Jeff is kind of the guru with the building. Jeff, if you're there, if you have anything to respond to Dave, that would be great, please.
Yes, I'd be happy to. There are no effluents to speak of except for where the cement is handled and the concrete is mixed inside the building. And both of those mechanical items are protected with HEPA filtration dust collectors, which recirculate inside the building. So there is no exhaust that contains any concrete products.
So as the trucks drive through the building and the doors are open to exit or enter the building, none of these chemicals or residue can escape.
The trucks are provided with whatever pollution control measures are standard to automobiles and vehicles. There is an internal detection system for CO, but it triggers ventilation.
I'm specifically, cement in the raw state is dust. So that's what I'm concerned about, is that dust will escape the building into the environment.
We don't have any additional control measures other than the ones mentioned because there's no design to support any pollutants. There's no identified pollutants.
Does that answer your question, Tally?
So, being a manufacturing process engineer, most facilities do have some pollutants that come out of it. They either have scrubbers or other things to protect it, or pressurized systems to protect the things from preventing them from coming out.
There is not that level of pollution. We have a air quality permit that we will be seeking, but it's most likely exempt.
Okay, I'm just worried about the cement dust.
The cement stuff is all collected with dust collectors.
Okay, so you have dust collectors in the building.
Dust collectors are within the building, in the ventilation system, Mr. Prince?
Dust collectors are directly connected. Yes, they're part of the ventilation system, directly connected to areas where cement is handled, both at the silos and at the mixers.
Okay, that satisfies my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? I have one.
Oh, I have some. Oh, I'm sorry.
We received from Haley Aldrich some material that is I think new to the commission. Was this study that was done back in June? Is this additional information that was done, or was it information that was just simply not included in the original package?
I believe what you're referring to is the Haley and Aldrich geotechnical report.
That's correct.
That was not included in the original submission. I think Wade asked at the last meeting if a geotech report was conducted. We had provided a truncated version to Maureen maybe a month and a half ago or so, but we had never submitted the full 289-page report until this week.
Okay, well, we have is a synopsis of that.
It might be.
Seamus, I submitted to the commission a abbreviated version that was for the town of Waterford. Both versions are in the public record.
Okay, so that's thank you, Maureen. The report is substantial. There's a lot of stuff in there that really didn't apply to our basins or anything like that, which is why it's a 290-page report. So I truncated that for Maureen to expedite her review, and I guess that's what she provided to you. But there, I guess for the record, the full report has been submitted as well.
Correct.
Yep. Mr. Lirish?
Yes, so regarding this report, is there any glaring items that you think we should know about as far as what what's contained in this report? I mean, it'll take a while certainly for us to go over. If there's anything you'd particularly like to highlight for us, I would greatly appreciate that. And then I have a follow-up question too.
Can I take a stab at that, Jim?
Sure, please.
The report indicates that the gravel bearing is very sufficient for the intended construction, and that there is not going to be issues with groundwater except for in the deepest excavations, and that waterproofing will be required at a couple of small areas of the building, but generally no other protections are required underground other than standard foundations. That's the purpose of the report, is to indicate standard foundations. The other item that the report indicates is preparation of soil materials and bases for the building, the pad, and the rear yard and roads, and that there's no major surprises there. The question you may be asking is whether there's any environmental concerns, which is another separate report. We did not find any outstanding wrecks on the property that need to be resolved.
Okay. I wish I was on the property right now in a way, because we have a significant rain event, and I'd like to see where some of the flow is coming from. But after I read through the Jordan Brook watershed management plan, and I was out on the site today and I looked, and something really kind of caught my eye. Maybe you can help me understand this a little bit. I know that it might sound odd that I'm asking this question about the amount of traffic on the road with trucks, and what might be on the trucks might wash off the trucks. I have no idea how many trucks are coming in or out, on a 24-hour-a-day basis and that sort of thing. But one thing I did notice is that from the road, adding a lot more traffic, there's no protection at Parkway South to Jordan Brook, meaning that with increased traffic could come increased debris, washings off the truck, those sort of things. It's interesting to note that when you look at the road, Waterford Parkway South, and you stick your head over the edge, there's some riprap that was, I'm sure, put there by the state or someone to slow the water down as it's rushing down through those pipes underneath the highway. But there's nothing to protect anything from washing off the road. And if we increase the amount of traffic, are we going to have a problem with sedimentation, with other things coming into Jordan Brook from that point? I mean, you don't own the road, but you kind of own the property right there in Jordan Brook, right where that flows in. So I'm wondering if it was ever given any thought, or who takes responsibility for this?
The actual entry of Jordan Brook is on the Coca-Cola property.
Yeah, I know, but there's going to be a lot more trucks going up and down the road. Well, let's see, where the heck's my map? Stand by one.
Jeff, off the top of your head, I'm sure you probably don't know what the traffic count is in and out of the site, correct? Is most of the traffic internal on the site, Jeff?
I'm sorry. No, there's a fair amount of trucking that goes off-site daily. I'm gonna
Okay.
say it's 30 to 50 trucks
Is that a day, an hour?
a day.
Thank you.
All right, well, okay, so I see on some of these drawings where you show your property line, and it does appear that the Parkway South crosses the brook on Coca-Cola property. I mean, or somebody else's property other than yours. So somehow we're gonna have to resolve this. I'm not sure what's going to be done or who's going to take care of it, but we're going to need to take a look at this in a little more detail as far as the increase in traffic that's going to be generated because of your construction site and what impact that might have going across the brook as far as any materials that might come off of trucks, whether it's mud or dust or whatever else. And I know you're capturing a lot of dust inside the building. But anyway, I'm familiar with construction sites because I've worked, besides being in service, I work construction and I know what comes off of trucks. And we're going to have to somehow figure this out. And maybe I'll have to talk with Maureen later on and see what the town, the town has to say about this.
We do intend on having truck wash-off pads for the outgoing vehicles.
Sure. Well, if you see my drawings, it's because I was carrying them around on the site through the woods and all. So they're all messed up. But anyway, we'll have to talk about this more and see what we need to do, if we need to do anything to protect the brook at Waterford Parkway South. Let's see. I have any other questions here? So I know that from where I could access, the banks are heavily vegetated. Didn't appear that there was any scouring of the bank or whatever due to flow right now. What I'm interested in looking more into is ensuring that any flow that comes off of your site is not going to add significant amount of water that would necessarily cause any more erosion or sedimentation, in the creek. So I know if you've done the engineering work to contain the water that comes off the site. I just have to look into that just a bit more.
Dave, I could probably jump in for a second here. Maureen actually asked a really good question between last meeting and this meeting. She asked about what the discharges are at the outfalls for each of the storm events. So I looked into that to summarize it for her and actually have it here in front of me. And as you know, we're storing everything under the 10-year storm, infiltrating everything. So there is no discharge at any of the outfalls for anything under the 10-year. For the 25-year storm, we have discharges of 0.5, 0.9, 1.3, 0.7, 0.8, 0.3. So they're all essentially sub 1 for the 25-year. And at the 100-year, we have 1.3, 3.2, 4.9, 2.6, 4.7. So they're all, the only one that's above a 5 at the 100-year is outfall F1, which is basin in the southwesternmost corner. That's 8.5 CFS. All the other ones are sub 5 CFS.
Okay, great.
So yeah, hopefully answers some of the erosion question. With some riprap and low flows, I don't think we're going to be having much erosion, if any at all, even at the 100-year storm.
James, again, I think it would be very helpful to the commission if you could summarize that in a table. All that information you gave me, just put that in a tabular form for each basin. I think it would be very helpful.
Of course.
Thank you.
Could there have been some flags out there on site from some other evaluation? I found some that I couldn't tie back to any of the drawings that I had. Let's see some of the numbers. Where the heck did I write those? SPK 14. Is that what's
There
any idea?
was that just flagging? Was there a stake out there?
I think it was a stake.
So it may have been. So the survey work has been done obviously for wetlands and flagged the property line, but also for the boring locations, test pits, stuff like that. I think so that they knew where they were going. There was probably a stake in the ground with a flag on it where they were supposed to be digging or doing a boring hole.
Sure.
That's what I would think it is, but nobody besides, us and Haley and Aldrich should be on the site putting stakes in the ground, so.
Okay. I got you. Yeah, I was finding white flags, blue flags, first red flags. So I ended up getting caught in the rain out there, so I wasn't able to complete my my walk around, but there's a little bit of time yet. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? I may have asked this question previously, but I don't recall it. The perimeter road around the storage area, is that paved or is it crushed stone, gravel, or some other material?
So right now that is paved. Dacon has asked if we can essentially make it a paved road without the pavement on it. So install all the aggregate subbase and leave it unpaved. That's a discussion that we can certainly still have. So it's been asked, and I'm not sure what the commission's feeling on that is, or Maureen's feeling. That's been brought up though. Right now it's proposed to be paved.
Okay, thank you. And the storage area itself, the surface of that will be, as I recall, mostly crushed stone. Most of the area will be crushed stone.
That's correct. Be a gravel surface.
Well, in my mind, that's different. Is it gravel surface or is it crushed stone?
So we're trying to utilize the gravel that's out there. I think Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the subsurface gravel is good gravel, and I think he was trying to just use the subsurface gravel as dig it down to that point and put some gravel on top of that to coat it. So it's not crushed stone, but they are proposing to do gravel. I'm not sure the size of the gravel. Maybe Jeff can answer that.
It's being evaluated as we speak. We have a number of site subcontractors looking at various options to help us to improve the yard towards the goals we need, but at the same time, spend an extra $1 million. So,
well, it seems to me that crushed stone would be certainly, that would present a cleaner surface other than just gravel. I guess I would present to Maureen what the benefit of crushed stone will be over gravel. Is it significant? And we can make that determination at some point in time. But in my mind, certainly crushed stone is better than, regardless of what the quality of the gravel is. I think crushed stone would present a more preferable surface.
the geotechnical engineer has made a recommendation for trap rock over gravel. So we are looking at that as a recommendation to FabCon, but it's obviously a significant cost impact to the project, and it is something like $1 million.
I didn't catch the last part of your comment.
I said it is something like an additional $1 million on the project. It's a very large area.
But there will be certain pathways, so to speak, amidst the stored material, correct?
The stored material is stored in a linear fashion, so there's pathways for the
gantries?
Gantries about every 25 feet.
Could those areas be coated with trap rock to reduce the cost?
It's likely that there will be improvements at track areas, yes. And this is exactly, it's a very good question because it's exactly the things that we're evaluating at the moment.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Maureen, any comments?
Yeah, I do have some. I haven't prepared or finished going through all the record materials to have my formal comments ready for this evening, but I do have a number of questions and clarifications I want to bring for the record. The first one, Seamus, although I have a copy of it that you provided for the record, I think we should put in the natural diversity database determination dated, I believe it was August 15th. That should probably be entered into the record because it's the recognition of the state in incorporating the mitigation measure for the turtles and the snake.
Can you guys still hear me? I just lost power briefly for a second.
Sorry.
Everybody still hear me?
I didn't want to add stuff to the record without you guys entering it. But you had shared with me Natural Diversity Database's response to Dennis Quinn's recommendations for turtle mitigation. And they approved them and made them that approval good for 2 years. That's in that letter dated August 15th to you. Can you enter that into the record as part of the application?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay. I mean, I have it, but if you could forward it to me under cover, I don't want to just start stacking your application.
Yeah.
With things. Okay. But I think it's important because it goes back to the questions I raised at the last meeting in terms of where are these protection areas? They're not shown on any plan you have in front of the commission yet. He also talks about going on to the other side of the brook and making improvement to some old field areas, which would be within the upland review area. That's not in front of the commission. And some improvements along maybe the east side of Jordan Brook, I guess within the sewer right away and beyond. Just need that kind of clarification of what that's going to entail, what FabCon that your client is willing to incorporate and include into this plan. It's certainly of import to the Conservation Commission as well as even the Wetlands Commission for the protection of the wildlife in this riparian corridor.
Maureen, if I could jump in for a second. I spoke to Dennis Quinn, the herpetologist, and he was revising a letter. He actually sent it to me about 3 o'clock today. I just have not forwarded that over to you. But we have that. I mentioned your comments about Coca-Cola has a 100-foot conservation easement around Jordan Brook. He recommended a 200-foot easement, so we have that. We're adding that to the plan where we have 200 feet, where it reduces to less than that. It'll go essentially to the extent of our edges of our pavement surfaces. There's some other items in his recommendations that he just clarified, and he has a letter essentially that says the plans meet all of his criteria, and he's happy that they will not adversely affect the turtle population.
So you'll be able to submit, it doesn't have to be a full set, James, it could just be even the 120 scale plan showing where these areas are, because in his report, it's, you know, it's just a 8x11 aerial. Oh, you can't see it. I'm sorry.
You want me to bring it
No,
up?
no, it's okay. We've been doing this so long, you're right there, I'm sorry. Now you flustered. in terms of where these areas are, especially because the DEP personnel have accepted them as mitigation for the project. And the commission needs to see what that is. Clearly, we need to see that. So that would be good. I had also asked you if one of your experts could look at, there was a vernal pool identified on the eastern wetlands, just east of Stormwater Management Area C. That's why I'd asked the commission, just so you can follow. That's why you got the wetland map that was referred to in Jim Cohen's report wasn't included in the application material. So that's what you got in your packet. And as a supplement into the record was the map that was just missing from his report. All right. But because it's a vernal pool, it in our past experience with the commission of these kind of vulnerable resources, there's a little more evaluation that goes into their critical 100-foot area and then a 750-foot radius around it for habitat. And it would be good for on the record to have one of your biological professionals at least address the potential impacts or non-impact of the project to those critical areas.
Thank you.
Okay.
I spoke to Jim Cowan about that, and he was trying to get a letter for today, but he wasn't able to complete it.
And again, I appreciate it. You know, until I have that, I don't want to, it would be good to have all that information. And I also, for the community, because this is a cold water trout fishery, there should be some discussion on the overall project impacts, you know, in terms of maintaining hydrology, water quality, flows, temperature, in-stream aquatic habitat, all those important features of this riparian brook. The reason we have a watershed management plan. In summary fashion, or what in particular, you've done a great job of addressing the infiltration requirements under the Fuss and O'Neill report, but I'm really lacking the biological part of it. And I think between your herpetologist and your wetland scientist, you have personnel. I'm not saying you have to hire somebody else. It would be a more complete application and review having that, which is a very important function of this resource, identified in this record.
Okay, thank you. We'll get more succinct letters from each of them and have all their recommendations incorporated.
Okay. Mr. Chair, can I keep going? Are we good? All right. I spent a lot of time this week reviewing the old files for this property regarding the airport, the mitigation or the removal of underground storage tanks, soil remediation. And I think the most recent stuff I found was like maybe 1992. And I just wanted to ask Jeff if you had during your, your review of this property, if you've had any more recent information that you can share regarding the completion of the landfill closure on the property and the completion of the soil remediation by the old airport hangar. If you guys have found any of that. And the only reason I'm not looking for more documentation per se is just if and where those areas may be in proximity to these subsurface infiltration chambers. We probably want to make very sure that the soil underneath those areas. I know you had said that Haley and Aldrich had done some soil testing. I just want to make sure we're not, in trying to promote infiltration and keep the water nice and cold for the trout, that we don't hit a plume.
We have a complete phase 1 environmental site assessment completed by Haley and Aldrich. They do address all of the previous and current environmental conditions as they did all of the original reports going back to 1983. And so that report is significant, maybe 1,000 pages. And it does, in fact, indicate that we're in a good condition here and we don't have any outstanding issues to be resolved environmentally other than, of course, the stormwater issues. But there are no underground conditions that are a problem. We did have borings and test pits and all kinds of things done during the phase 1 ESA. If we can provide a copy to the commission, we'd be happy to do so.
Or if there's an executive summary, perhaps.
There is probably a cover letter that's 3 pages.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just, it is just in terms of, I want to make sure that in our efforts to meet all the recommendations in the plan, that we're not
Of course,
causing a groundwater pollutant problem.
I will make sure that Seamus has that information and makes it available to you.
Okay. And then the only other thing I'm butting into is not really our jurisdiction, but I was concerned where the eastern fill slope on the storage yard appears to be going over and into the western portion of the landfill. That comes down to, you know, if it was closed appropriate, I don't know, back in those days, you just needed 2 feet of cover and you planted it, I think, but the fill slope that we're pushing that goes outside of that little, the existing gravel path, on all the old reports from Haley and Aldridge or other firms that I found in '89, that was the access to the dump. So the dump was just to the east of that dirt road. Again, having that, I'm just looking at matching the plans. So the plan from DeCesar Bentley in 1991 showed the edge of the landfill area just off what was Commerce Way, which is where that little dirt path is now. And I just want to make sure our fill now is going a little past that by about 60 feet. So again, that goes back to Jeff, to your people. I mean, is that acceptable? Are there any other measures that have to be done there when you start push and fill on top of a closed landfill? Just, you can check into that, please. Otherwise, we'll have to tighten that slope up, you know, if you can't disturb the landfill. And again, I don't know what the status was of the closure of that landfill. If it was ever formally accepted, you know.
My understanding is it was legally closed.
Okay, so we got to be careful. It was legally closed and filed with the state, that now you're changing grades on it. At least that's what the rules are now. So just look into that. Again, that's not a wetlands concern. It's really just a site concern that, as the environmental planner, I just need to bring to your attention.
Other questions or comments?
Nope, none here.
All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
All right, so the next meeting is September 10th then, correct? Again, I urge whoever hasn't been out there to get out there. You can drive right in on that road. And the Seamus has marked and put more clues up for clearing limits. And you can still see all the wetland flags. If you need help, I can meet you out there.
So Maureen, that work has not been done yet. We're trying to schedule somebody out there. Do you know what the earliest somebody would plan to be out there is, so we can make sure it's done by then?
Okay. So I know what I wanted to ask you. You know how you sent me that overlay, Seamus, on the aerial?
Yep.
I know it has some notations on it, but can I add that to the file so the commission could see that? As,
Do you want me to send you one without the notations on it?
yeah, because it's nice, like, particularly the pine trees are still there, so you can, you know, once you get through all the chest-high weeds, it's really easy to see where you are in relationship to the past improvements on the site.
Gotcha.
Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Just send me a new one? Okay. It's
Yeah,
very
I'll forward that over to you.
Thank you.
So just in terms of schedule, so the next meeting is the 10th. what is the statutory requirements here for hearing, voting, determinations, I guess?
Are you asking staff or the chair?
I guess I'm asking you mostly.
Well, when we received this on the 6th, correct? So we have
Yes.
65 days. We are on day 22 right now.
Okay.
We just counted this today. We have not received any petitions from any members of the public demanding a public hearing. The commissions still has the opportunity, if they find this is a significant impact, to hold a public hearing or to hold a public hearing in the public interest. I have not had any discussion with any commission members. I think that would be your opportunity tonight to talk to them.
Okay. I'm not sure how the commission feels. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if this is considered a significant activity in your eyes or if it's not. Obviously, if it's not, that's great. If it is, we'd like to have it scheduled sooner rather than later, just so we don't get to 65 days and then extend it. So that's all. Just a question. That's all.
Anything?
I think that I can speak for the commission, and Maureen, correct me if I'm wrong, please. We will do our utmost to be diligent in our research and discussions, et cetera, and move the process along as expeditiously as possible.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, anything else then on 2015?
Moving along, item number 4. C20-14, 170 Rope Ferry Road, 2-lot re-subdivision, owner and applicant, Floric Surveying LLC, agent. Mr. Floric?
Good evening, Brian Floric, Floric Surveying LLC. This project is kind of it's a interesting one. I was hoping to just do a property split, but unfortunately, part of the property off of Granite Court was a previous subdivision done in like 1950, and so I got looped into doing a re-subdivision because of this, and hence I had to come in front of you guys. Part of the package includes a wetlands report done by James Cowan. Granite Court is synonymous with granite in Graniteville section of Waterford. There were old quarry pits that turned into wetlands on the property. There's a major wetland on the property toward the, I guess it'd be toward the Gardner's Wood side of the property, but none of the proposed activities anywhere near that. So you have a couple little pockets of wetlands in throughout the property that were previous granite pits that turned into wetlands over the years. So it's pretty straightforward. Looking just to for the existing lot being the church and the second lot coming in off of Granite Court, and that's pretty much it. There really isn't much else to say about it.
If I may, commissioners, so what happens is, because it's a subdivision, by our subdivision regulations, the application is required to come in front of the inland wetlands if it has inland wetlands on the property. So this is similar to the one we just did up in somewhat up at, what was that, Huntsbrook?
Huntsbrook Road for Evan.
It's showing it. This isn't a guy's house. They don't know who's going to build what, but it shows that it can support a decent sized house. And this is down on septic, correct, Brian?
Yes. Yeah, there's no sewer on Granite Court.
Here. So the test hole information is on here. The setbacks that are required for building lines are on here because that's what P&Z needs. So right now, this is a proposed limit of clearing. I think as before, we'll go out and have a look. I haven't had opportunity. I've been trying to catch up on the other project right now, but go out and have a look at these. You had your wetland scientist review the wetlands and everything, and we'll see what would be an appropriate protective buffer around them and try to get you to the point where you can move on to P&C.
Maureen, just a point for the record, please. Because of my association with St. Paul's Church and the pastor, Father Mark O'Donnell, I will be abstaining from the vote on this application. However, I do reserve the right to be a part of the discussion.
I'll look into that, Rich. I think you recuse yourself or you don't, but I'll look into whatever that protocol is. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, okay. Yeah, Dave, I'm sorry.
well, can I ask a question? So I didn't look at this real close, but 2 lots, meaning one lot is the area on Granite Street that's in purple, and the other lot is that other larger area that's surrounded by red line?
No. What you see, the orange line is what the second lot is going to be. Okay, that whole big area, but because it's a re-subdivision, the applicant needs to show where a house would go and that it can be supported by the property. So that's what you see in purple. That's the area of disturbance.
Okay, so they're just showing where one house could be, but there could be other houses if.
Right now, they just have to split the lot off.
Gotcha.
We're just looking to split the lot for sale. The second lot is the actual church and the rectory. The church and the rectory is somewhere around 12 acres. I'm doing this off the top of my head. And the remaining land that we're looking to split is 15 acres.
Okay. And that lot has to be able to support a home. That's why you show the purple area, right?
Right. I highlighted that for the commission, just so you could find your way when you go out there.
Gotcha.
It's a lot of property for one lot.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this one? Oh,
Any
sorry.
other comments or questions before we move on? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Brian.
Item number 5 on the agenda, violations. Maureen, anything to report?
Well, we just needed to correct that for the call on the agenda for the new application. I put the wrong number down. Sorry for the copy and paste error. This is 170 Rope Ferry Road. It should be listed as C2016. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
We'll correct that for the next subsequent agendas.
Okay,
And
thank you.
no, I have no violation.
No.
I have no violations that I'm currently working on.
Item number 6, Conservation Commission tasks.
No, we haven't revisited our open space planning in a while, and I know our time gets overtaken by larger projects, but it's still good to kind of revisit that when we have some time, where we're looking to preserve space, where we're trying to follow our watershed management plans, where we're trying to open up riparian or preserve riparian corridors or different mosaics of land. And I don't believe we're starting the plan of conservation and development just yet, but it's going to be a big role of this commission to participate in that. Katrina wanted to remind us that that's been on our agenda for a while, and we can't let it slip.
Any other comments on item number 6? Item numbers.
I do.
7. Go ahead, David.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I guess that's what the plan of conservation development is. Is that the either report or whatever that we did, that the town did last year, that they got a bronze award or something for?
No, no. No, the plan of conservation development is required under state statute. Every town and municipality has to prepare one every 10 years. And it's
Okay.
an update to show how you're planning for the growth and development of your town. Ours is called the Plan of Conservation, Preservation, and Development. So we are due to re-up ours from 1997. And the
97.
Conservation Commission will, or was it 97? We redid one, whatever, 10 years ago almost, and we're due for another one. And
Okay.
the Conservation Commission will probably be asked to be part of, some subcommittees and discussions. But like we had said before, we want to be able to have, this is how we prioritize. These are the factors we look at. I think I don't want to lose track of that discussion we've been having.
Will or can the commission ask for assistance, advice from other organizations that are non-governmental that have the similar objectives in the town of Waterford?
I think Dave, there are many inputs from many different people and departments that it's not only conservation, but it's also a lot of things that are added into it.
Maureen,
We have an important part, but there are many other organizations and departments that have input into other sections.
Maureen, just in very general terms, once we start on this renewal or refreshing revision of the conservation development plan, how long do we have to complete it? Do you know offhand?
No, and again, I don't want you to confound the two. We were working on a matrix. Oh, so long ago, before the disease. We were working on a matrix on what would be important factors that this Conservation Commission considers for conservation lands. And remember, we were trying to break those out. Michael and Julie had started it. So maybe what I'd like to do is I'll reintroduce that in your packet, just for food for thought. I know you have a lot on our plate right now. And when maybe you're walking out in the woods or enjoying a early September morning or something, you can start thinking about what are those elements and components we're trying to identify under habitat, vegetative structure, landforms. Remember, there were a bunch of factors that we already broke out that would be considered in your determination of ranking or evaluating the importance of open space lands. So I'll reprise that if you guys don't have that somewhere in your files, and we'll get started again. But that will be rolled over, of course, in some respect to what will be in the plan of conservation development. This is the plan of this Conservation Commission.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Item number 7, correspondence. No correspondence. Number 8, any bills to pay?
No.
No bills to pay. Do we like to adjourn? Motion to
I make
adjourn?
a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. So Maureen, we can schedule a time to go out with you for this upcoming application. I'll get in touch with you.
Yeah, staff will be available, but not tomorrow.
No, that's fine.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.